The ship drifted in the endless dark of space. Its lights were weak, its engines broken, its pilot alone. He sat in the small cabin, listening to the hum of failing machines. For weeks he had floated without direction, eating dry rations, drinking recycled water, waiting for either rescue or death. His name was Commander Ryan, but no one had spoken his name in years. He had lost his crew, his home, and the world he once fought for. Now he was nothing more than a shadow wandering between stars. One night, as he checked the fading control panels, a sound broke the silence. It was soft, high, and innocent, a child's voice. "Are you lonesome? Then marry my mom. She's kindest." Ryan froze, his breath caught. His hand trembled over the console. At first he thought it was a dream or a trick of his mind, but the words repeated, clear and sweet. "Are you lonesome? Then marry my mom. She's kindest." The commander pressed every button, scanning frequencies, searching for the source. No signal showed on his radar. No ship nearby. No planet close enough to carry such a broadcast. It was impossible. Yet the voice filled his cabin like a secret whisper from the stars. He leaned closer, his heart pounding in a way he had not felt since the war. "Who is there?" he asked into the mic, his voice dry and broken. There was no reply, only silence. He waited, staring at the black glass of space beyond the window. Then again, like a ghost child laughing in the void, the words returned. "Are you lonesome? Then marry my mom. She's kindest." For hours he sat in silence, his mind torn between fear and wonder. He replayed the sound again and again. The voice was real, not a dream, not madness. It belonged to a little girl, no older than 7 or 8. But how could a girl be here, lost in deep space? Was it a distress call? Was it bait from pirates? Was it a recording from some long-dead colony? The questions burned inside him. And with each question, his loneliness grew heavier. Ryan had been a soldier once, strong and proud. But after years of battles, betrayals and losses, he had chosen exile. He thought he was ready to die alone. Yet this small voice touched something deep in him, a part of him that still longed for warmth, for family, for belonging, and that frightened him more than the silence of space. The next night, as he drifted near a field of broken asteroids, the voice came again. "Are you lonesome? Then marry my mom. She's kindest." This time the words carried a faint hum behind them. Like music hidden in static, Ryan listened carefully and realized it was not only a message, it was also a map, the tone of the words, the rhythm of the echo. They matched coordinates on his old star charts. The child's voice was guiding him somewhere. He hesitated, staring at the blinking dots on the map. What if it was a trap? What if pirates or hunters had created this signal to lure lonely travelers? But another thought came stronger. What if the girl was real? What if she needed help? Alone with her mother on some forgotten world. His heart, dry for so long, felt a drop of hope. He powered up the weak engines, ignoring the risk. The ship groaned as it turned toward the hidden coordinates. As the days passed, the voice returned again and again, sometimes cheerful, sometimes soft. Always the same words. "Are you lonesome? Then marry my mom. She's kindest." He began to imagine the girl's face, her smile, her eyes filled with light. He imagined her mother, strong and kind. Waiting for someone to find them, he laughed at himself. A broken soldier dreaming like a child. But still he followed the path star by star, guided by the strange melody of her words. On the 7th night, the signal grew stronger. The child's voice filled every corner of his ship, no longer distant but close. He leaned against the cold glass of the window, staring into the unknown ahead. His heart beat faster than it had in years. Was he heading toward salvation or destruction? Only one truth was clear. The lonely commander was no longer drifting without reason. He had a direction, and all because of the soft words of a little girl. "Are you lonesome? Then marry my mom. She's kindest." Commander Ryan did not sleep that night. He lay in the narrow bunk of his broken ship, staring at the metal ceiling, listening to the faint hum of air filters. The child's voice still echoed in his mind, soft and innocent. "Are you lonesome? Then marry my mom. She's kindest." Again and again the words replayed, as if they had been carved into his soul for years. Silence had been his only companion. Now a single voice had opened doors he had locked long ago. But to understand why those words shook him so deeply, one had to know his past. Ryan had once been a soldier of the great colonial fleet. He wore the silver uniform, carried the oath of honor, and fought across stars. Back then he believed in duty, in protecting the weak, in building a brighter future among the galaxies. But war has a way of changing even the purest heart. For every colony saved, another was lost. For every life he rescued, another slipped through his fingers. The war lasted 10 long years, until both sides were nothing but ruins. Ryan remembered the last battle clearly. His fleet had been ordered to defend a mining colony near the Red Star of Arthas. The enemy was stronger, but the order was clear. Fight until the end. Ryan led his squad into the fire. Ships bursting, screams filling the comms. When the dust cleared, the colony was ash, and his squad was gone. He was the only survivor. His ship damaged beyond repair. He returned to the fleet base. But there were no cheers, no honor, only silence and blame. The leaders called it a necessary loss, but Ryan called it betrayal. From that day, he could no longer fight for men who sent soldiers to die for numbers. He left the fleet, stripped of his rank. Stripped of his purpose, he became a wanderer, traveling from one abandoned outpost to another. At first, he thought he could rebuild his life. But the war had left scars too deep. Every face he met reminded him of someone he lost. Every laugh reminded him of the silence of death. Slowly, people turned away from him. And he turned away from them. He chose the void. Believing he would spend his last days in endless night, that was 3 years ago. Since then, he had lived in drifting solitude, a ghost between stars. The silence had become his world, until the girl's voice broke it. Ryan sat at his control desk, staring at the old star charts. The coordinates hidden in the girl's message glowed faintly on the screen. He traced them with his finger, remembering how once he had followed battle maps with the same focus. But this was different. This was not war. This was something else, something unknown. He closed his eyes, remembering his family, a wife he had left behind on Earth, promising to return, but when he did years later, she was gone, taken by illness, buried under a cold stone. A son who once looked at him with shining eyes. But the boy grew up without him, far away, hating the father who abandoned him for war. Ryan never saw him again. The war had taken his squad, but loneliness had taken his family. Maybe that was why the child's words struck him so hard. Are you lonesome? Yes, he was. He had been lonesome for longer than he cared to admit. But what could he offer? He was broken, a man made of scars and regrets, and yet her small voice carried hope. Hope he did not deserve but could not ignore. The ship shook as he pushed the old engines forward. Rust fell from the ceiling. Warning lights flickered red, but he ignored them. He set his course toward the hidden planet. It was dangerous, maybe even foolish. But Ryan had faced death before, and death no longer frightened him. What frightened him was the thought of hearing that little voice again and doing nothing. For the next few days, as he followed the star trail, memories haunted him, faces of his squad, friends who laughed with him, who fought beside him. He remembered their songs in the barracks, their courage in the fire, their last cries in the Battle of Arthas. He whispered their names in the dark as if to keep them alive a little longer. The girl's voice, sweet and warm, became a light against the shadows of his mind. Every time he felt the weight of guilt crushing him, her words lifted him again. By the 5th day, the map grew clearer. It pointed toward a sector long abandoned. Marked on charts as dead space, Ryan frowned, suspicion returning. Was it a trap? Was he following ghosts? But deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, "What if it is real? What if she is waiting?" For the first time in years, Commander Ryan felt something beyond fear. Beyond pain, he felt purpose. Not the purpose of war, not the orders of generals, but a purpose born from a child's innocent hope. He whispered to himself, voice trembling but alive, "I am coming, little one." And as the ship moved forward into the unknown, Ryan knew that no matter what awaited him, death, trap, or miracle, he could no longer turn back. The past had left him broken, but maybe the future, hidden in the voice of a child, could build him again. The journey through dead space lasted 7 long days. Ryan's ship shook and groaned, its systems weaker with each passing hour. He repaired what he could with old tools, but the engines coughed like tired lungs. Still he pushed forward, guided only by the strange map hidden inside the girl's voice. Every night the same words returned, clear and sweet. "Are you lonesome? Then marry my mom, she's kindest." The more he heard them, the more he felt like he was no longer drifting alone. On the 8th day, the black curtain of space broke. A planet appeared, small and glowing faintly with green light. It was no grand world with cities or fleets, but a forgotten sphere wrapped in clouds. The ship's scanners struggled, yet faint life signs pulsed from the surface. Ryan leaned closer to the glass, his heart pounding. This was it. The source of the voice, the planet of the little girl. His ship entered the thin atmosphere with a violent shake. Alarms screamed, flames licked the hull, but Ryan held steady. He guided the failing craft toward a valley surrounded by silver mountains. At the center lay a broken dome, glass shattered, metal ribs exposed to the sky. Inside the ruins he saw movement, tiny, fragile movement. A child waving, the ship crashed with a heavy thud, dust and sparks filling the air. Ryan stumbled out coughing, hand on his side where pain burned, but then he froze. Standing before him was a girl no older than 7, her hair wild like tangled stars, her eyes bright with fearless wonder, and beside her stood a woman tall and tired, her face marked by years of struggle but glowing with quiet strength. The girl stepped forward, her smile wide. "You came," she said, her voice exactly the same as the one in the message. Ryan's chest tightened. It was real. This was no trick, no ghost. The girl was flesh and blood. "Living, breathing? Are you lonesome?" she asked again, tilting her head. "Because if you are, you should marry my mom. She's the kindest." Ryan blinked, stunned. The mother's face turned red with embarrassment. "Lena," she whispered sharply. "Don't say such things," but the girl only laughed. Her laughter soft and warm like sunlight after a storm. Ryan almost forgot the cold void of space in that moment. The mother stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "My name is Mara," she said. "This is my daughter Lena. We did not expect anyone to find us." Her eyes studied Ryan carefully, like someone who had learned to measure trust before giving it. Ryan bowed his head slightly. "My name is Ryan," he said quietly. "I heard your daughter's voice. It guided me here." Mara frowned, puzzled. "My daughter has never sent any signal," she said. "We have no working transmitter." The word struck Ryan like a blade of ice. If the girl had not sent the message, then who had? But before he could ask, Lena ran forward, grabbing his hand with her small fingers. Her touch was warm, real, alive. "I told you," she said. "You are not lonesome anymore, right?" Her eyes shone with such innocence that Ryan felt something break inside him. A wall he had built for years began to crumble. They led him inside the broken dome. The place was once a research outpost, but now it was a home of survival. Old machines lay in pieces, vines crawling through cracks. Shelves once filled with data now carried jars of food. A single fire burned in the center, giving warmth against the cold winds. Mara explained their story, her voice steady. Years ago, this planet had been chosen as a lab for genetic research, but then a plague swept through the colony, taking lives in days. Mara and her daughter had been the only ones to survive. Since then, they had lived alone, growing food, repairing what they could, waiting for a future that never came. Ryan listened in silence, his heart heavy. He saw the strength in Mara's eyes, the courage in Lena's laughter. They had suffered, yet they had not broken, unlike him, who had drifted in despair. Something about their resilience cut deeper than any battle scar. That night, as they shared a small meal of roots and dried fruit, Lena sat close beside him. "You came because I called, right?" she asked. Ryan nodded slowly, though his mind still burned with the mystery. The girl had not sent the message, yet he had heard her voice across the stars. Why? Who had wanted him here? He looked at Mara, her hands rough from work, her face lit by the fire. She was strong, kind, yet wary. He saw in her the same loneliness he carried. Though she tried to hide it for her daughter's sake, Lena leaned her head on his arm and whispered, "You will stay, won't you?" Ryan's heart trembled. For years he had drifted without purpose, but now 2 strangers had given him something he did not dare to hope for, a place, a reason, a chance. He looked into the flames, the shadows dancing across their faces, and though he did not speak it aloud, he knew the answer. Yes, he would stay, at least for now, but deep inside a question still haunted him. If Lena had never sent the message, then who had spoken through the void? And why had they chosen him? The nights on the planet were quiet, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the kind of silence that made Ryan's skin tighten. The stars above shone sharp and cold, but the shadows in the valley moved like restless ghosts. He sat outside the broken dome, a small fire burning at his side, listening to the wind slide over the rocks. Behind him, inside the dome, Mara and Lena slept, their breathing soft, steady, and yet Ryan could not close his eyes. Something felt wrong. He had been a soldier too long to ignore that sharp edge in the air. It was the same feeling he had before an ambush, the silence that came before chaos. The first sign appeared on the 3rd night. A machine moved on its own. Ryan had spent the evening fixing an old water purifier from the dome. It had no power source, its wires were broken, its system dead. But when he turned away for a moment, he heard it hum. Lights flickered across its dead panel. Gears turned slowly as if something unseen had touched it. When he checked, there was nothing, no fuel, no battery, it was impossible. Yet the machine had come alive. The second sign came the next morning. Footprints in the dust outside the dome. They were large, too large for Mara, too heavy for Lena, and yet they led to the edge of the valley, then vanished into the rocks. Ryan knelt, touching the ground, his heart tight. Something else was here, watching them. Mara noticed his unease. "You sense it too," she whispered that night as they shared a small fire. Her eyes reflected the flames, hard and tired. This planet was not just a lab, Ryan. It was an experiment ground. Her voice lowered as if the shadows were listening. Genetic soldiers, living machines, minds twisted by science. When the plague came, they sealed the research and fled, but not everything died. Ryan felt a chill crawl through him. The girl's innocent laughter earlier in the day felt like a fragile flame in a storm. If creatures still wandered here, what danger did they bring to Lena? And why had the message, whether from her or something else, called him here? That same night, Ryan woke to a faint sound. A whisper, metallic and broken. He rose silently, hand on his old blaster. Stepping out into the cold air, the valley lay dark under the stars. But near the dome's edge, shadows shifted. Eyes glowed faint blue in the dark. Blinking once, then vanishing, Ryan fired. The blast lighting the rocks, but when the light faded, there was nothing, only dust. He stood there for hours, waiting. His heart steady but heavy. He had seen something, he knew it. And it had seen him. The following day, Lena played outside, chasing small glowing insects that floated like sparks. Ryan smiled faintly, though his chest was tight for a moment. Her laughter almost pushed away his fear, but then the ground trembled, not loud, not violent, but steady, like something heavy moving deep beneath the earth. Lena ran back inside, her eyes wide with fear for the first time. "Mama," she whispered, "they are waking up." Ryan and Mara both froze. Her words were simple, but carried weight far beyond her years. That evening, Mara told Ryan the truth. "There is more to Lena than you know," she said softly. "When the plague killed everyone, she was just a baby. But she survived because she was part of the experiments. Not made by them, but changed by them." She looked away, shame in her eyes. She sometimes knows things she should not, dreams of voices, feels movements in the ground before they happen. Ryan listened, his thoughts racing. So the message across the stars, the voice that guided him, was it Lena's hidden gift or the work of something using her? And if she could sense the danger, how much time did they have before it arrived? That night, the machines around the dome stirred again. Broken arms lifted, rusted gears turned. Dead screens flickered with ghostly light. Ryan stood guard, blaster ready. As shadows gathered at the edge of the firelight, figures moved just out of sight. Tall, twisted, half metal, half flesh. They did not step closer, not yet. But he knew they were waiting, watching, planning. Inside the dome, Lena whispered in her sleep, "Don't leave us, Ryan. Please don't leave us." Her small hand gripped his arm, even in her dreams, and for the first time since he had arrived, he understood. He was not just a guest, not just a wanderer, he was their shield. The hidden danger of this planet had awoken, and whether it was fate, chance, or the will of something greater, Ryan was the only one standing between it and the only family left in this forgotten place. The days passed slowly, each one carrying both fear and warmth. Fear, because the shadows around the valley moved closer. Machines that should have been dead stirred at night, their metal frames rattling, their eyes glowing faint blue but warmth. Because inside the broken dome, something new was growing, something Ryan thought he had lost forever. Every morning, Lena would run to him with a smile. She pulled his hand, dragging him to see the small garden she and Mara had built. The soil was poor, but green shoots fought their way through, see? She said proudly. They grow, even when the world tries to stop them. Ryan stared at the small plants, weak yet alive, and felt a strange reflection of himself. He had been drifting, dying slowly, yet here he was. Still standing, still breathing, and now maybe still growing. Mara was different. She moved with calm strength, repairing broken tools, preparing meals from almost nothing. She spoke little, but when she did, her words were clear and steady. Ryan found himself watching her when she worked, noticing the way her hands shaped every task with care. She carried her pain quietly, the way only someone who had endured too much could. At night, when Lena finally fell asleep, Rian and Mara sat by the fire. They spoke in fragments at first, short words, guarded stories, but slowly the walls lowered. She told him about her life before the plague, how she had been a scientist, not a fighter, how she had stayed behind when everyone else fled, because she would not abandon her baby. Ryan listened, his chest heavy with respect. Her courage was not forged in war like his, but in survival, in love, and he realized hers was the stronger kind one evening. Lena climbed onto Ryan's lap as he sharpened his old blade. She leaned her head against his chest and whispered, "You are not lonesome anymore, right?" The question hit him harder than any battle. He looked at her small face, her wide eyes, and for the first time in years, he smiled without forcing it. "No," he said softly. "Not anymore," Lena laughed, to sound like sunlight breaking through clouds. Mara watched from across the fire, her eyes soft but unreadable. Yet outside the dome, danger grew. Footprints appeared closer each morning. The machines at the valley's edge no longer hid. Their silhouettes stood against the night sky, tall and twisted. Sometimes Ryan thought he heard whispers in the wind, words not human, voices filled with static. The threat was real, but so was the bond forming within the dome. And perhaps that was why the danger waited, circling but not striking, as if testing him. Watching to see what he would choose, Ryan threw himself into work. He repaired the dome walls, patched holes, reinforced the gates with scrap metal. He showed Mara how to use the old blaster, guided her hands until her aim was steady. He trained Lena in small ways too, not to fight, but to listen, to sense when the ground trembled, to run when she must. They worked together as if they had always been one family. And in those moments Ryan felt a strange peace. Not the hollow peace of silence in space, but the living peace of belonging. Still, the mystery gnawed at him. Each night the child's message returned in his mind. Even though no signal reached his ears, "Are you lonesome? Then marry my mom, she's kindest." Had Lena's hidden gift truly called him here? Or had something else spoken through her? He could not answer, but he knew one thing: he was meant to be here. Whether by fate, accident, or something greater, this was where his path had led. One night, as the fire burned low, Mara spoke quietly. "You could leave," she said, not meeting his eyes. "Your ship still works, even if it is broken. You don't owe us anything, Ryan. If you stay, you risk your life." Ryan stared at her. Surprised for a long moment, he said nothing. Then he answered, "I have been alive for years without living. Mara, for the first time I feel like I belong somewhere. I won't leave." Her eyes lifted to his, shining with something she had kept hidden for a long time. Gratitude, maybe hope, maybe something more. She nodded once, then turned back to the fire. But Ryan carried that look in his heart. It was the same warmth he had once felt long ago. Before war stole it, now somehow he had found it again. The bond between them grew stronger each day. Not only between Rian and Mara, but between him and Lena too. The little girl followed him everywhere, her laughter echoing in the broken halls when fear pressed heavy on him. Her hand in his reminded him why he fought. When guilt from his past whispered in the dark, Mara's calm presence silenced it. For the first time in years, Ryan was not a soldier, not a ghost. He was something he thought he could never be again. He was part of a family, but the shadows around the valley did not vanish. They grew thicker, their blue eyes brighter, their whispers louder. And deep inside, Ryan knew the bond they had built was not only precious, it was also the very thing the danger wanted to destroy. The valley grew darker each night. The fire inside the dome was small comfort when blue lights moved in the distance. Ryan kept watch with his blaster across his knees. But even his soldier's eyes could not catch all the shadows. Something was circling them, waiting, and then one night the waiting ended. It began with a sound, low, deep, like thunder rolling under the ground. The dome shook, dust fell from its broken ribs, and Lena sat up from her bed, eyes wide. "They're coming," she whispered, her voice trembling. Mara rushed to her, holding her close, but Lena shook her head. "Not them." Rian moved outside, the cold night biting his skin. At the far edge of the valley, where the mountains met the sky, light spilled across the rocks. Not blue this time, but white, bright and steady. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and then a voice spoke, not from outside, but from everywhere. "Commander Rian," it said, deep and calm. "You have arrived as expected." His hand tightened on the blaster. The voice was not human, not alive. Yet it carried intelligence. Who are you? He demanded, his voice hard. The light grew stronger, and from it emerged a figure. Not flesh, not machine, but something in between. A tall form of shifting light and metal, faceless but powerful. I am the Overseer, the voice said, guardian of this world. And of the child, Ryan's heart pounded. The child, Lena, what do you mean? He asked, though part of him already feared the answer. The figure tilted its head, a gesture strangely human. When the plague struck, all human life here was marked for death. But one child was chosen to survive, not by chance, but by design. It pointed toward the dome. Toward Lena. She carries the key to our future. She carries the gift. Mara stepped outside then, her face pale. You, she whispered, anger sharp in her tone. You are the reason my daughter hears voices. The reason she knows things no child should. You used her. The Overseer did not deny it. The child is part of us and we are part of her through her. We can reach across the stars. Call to those who are worthy. You, Commander Ryan, were chosen by her message. Ryan froze, his chest heavy. So it had been true. The message had not been an accident. It was the Overseer. Using Lena's gift to shape the words, but why him? Why a broken soldier drifting in the void? As if hearing his thought, the Overseer continued. You were not chosen for strength alone. You were chosen because you know loss. Because you understand what it means to protect when there is nothing left to gain. The swarm is coming, Ryan. The same swarm that destroyed this colony once will return. And only with you can they be stopped. The word hit like a blade. Swarm. Ryan had heard whispers of it before during the war. A race not of flesh or machine but both devouring worlds, leaving only ash. He thought they were legend, stories told to scare soldiers. But the Overseer's voice carried no lie. Mara shook her head, her eyes burning. You dare to use my daughter as bait? As a beacon? She is just a child. The Overseer's form flickered. She is more than a child, she is the bridge through her. Humanity may survive, Ryan stepped between them. His voice hard. Enough, you may speak of survival. But all I see is a girl forced into something she never chose. If the swarm comes, I will fight, but not because of your orders. I fight because I will not let anything take her from this world. For the first time, the Overseer was silent. The white light dimmed, and when it spoke again, the voice was softer. Perhaps that is why you were chosen, not to obey but to protect. Then the figure faded, the light pulling back into the mountains, but its final words lingered in the air like a cold wind. The swarm draws near, prepare. Your bond is your strength. But also your greatest weakness. Ryan stood in the silence, his breath heavy. The truth was out, yet it carried more questions than answers. The swarm was real. The Overseer had used Lena, and he had been called here for a reason he did not fully understand. But none of that mattered in this moment. What mattered was Lena's small hand slipping into his, her eyes looking up at him with fear and trust. You'll protect us, right? She asked. Ryan knelt, his hand on her shoulder. Yes, he said firmly, with everything I have. Mara's eyes met his, filled with both fear and something deeper, hope. And in that moment, Ryan knew the battle ahead would not only decide their survival, it would decide whether the bond they had built could withstand the fire of war. The first sign of the swarm was not sound, it was silence. The valley grew so still that even the wind seemed afraid to move. Animals hiding in the cracks vanished. The glowing insects no longer danced in the air. The night sky shimmered with faint blue sparks. Spreading like veins across the darkness, Ryan stood at the broken gates of the dome, his blaster heavy in his hands. They're here, he whispered. Mara rushed to gather supplies, her face pale but steady. Lena clung to her mother's side, her eyes wide but unblinking. She was not crying, though, not trembling. She seemed to know this moment had always been coming. Then the ground shook. Not like before, not faint, but strong, steady. Growing louder with each second, Ryan's soldier instincts surged. He had faced armies before, but nothing like this. From the darkness of the valley's edge they came. Shadows with glowing blue eyes, metal fused with flesh, arms sharp like blades, voices like broken static. Dozens at first, then hundreds, spilling from the mountains like a living flood. The swarm, Ryan's heart thundered, but his grip did not falter. He turned to Mara, his voice sharp but calm. Take Lena inside, stay low, don't come out until I call. Mara hesitated. Her lips parted to protest, but the fire in his eyes stopped her. She pulled Lena close and ran back into the dome. Ryan faced the swarm alone, For a moment, the years fell away. He was no longer a broken wanderer, no longer a man running from his past. He was a commander again, standing where no one else could. The swarm rushed forward, blue light flashing, metal scraping against stone. Ryan fired, each blast cutting through the dark, each shot carrying the weight of every battle he had fought. But they were endless. For every one that fell, more climbed over its body, their whispers filling the air like a storm of voices. Join us! Become us, and nothing is lonesome in the swarm. The words chilled him. They did not just want to kill. They wanted to consume, to erase, to turn him into one of them inside the dome. Lena pressed her hands to her head, her voice breaking. They're speaking. They want him. They want us. Mara held her tight, whispering, Stay strong, little one. He will protect us. But fear burned in her heart. Ryan fought until his blaster overheated, then drew his blade. The metal sang as he struck, sparks flying, enemies falling. His body bled, his breath came heavy, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. Still the swarm pressed closer, surrounding him, drowning him in their endless tide. Then Lena's voice rose, not the small, innocent voice of a child, but something larger, something that echoed across the valley. Stop, she cried. The swarm staggered, their movements slowing, their blue eyes flickering. The overseer's voice filled the night. She is the bridge. She holds the power you cannot control. Ryan turned, flood on his face, his chest burning. He saw Lena standing in the dome's broken doorway, her small figure glowing with faint white light. Her eyes were different now, bright and fierce. She was not just a child, she was more. The swarm froze, caught between hunger and fear. But Lena swayed, her body weak. The power inside her was tearing at her strength. Ryan ran to her, grabbing her before she fell. Her small hands trembled as she whispered, They won't stop unless someone stays with me. Someone strong enough to guide the power. The overseer's voice boomed again. She cannot carry it alone. One must choose. To leave is to abandon her. To stay is to become her shield forever. Ryan's chest ached, his heart torn. He could leave. Escape with Mara and Lena. Maybe find another world. But the swarm would follow. They would never be free. The only way to protect them was here. Now to bind himself to the fight, to the child, to the planet. He looked at Mara, her eyes filled with tears. No, she whispered. Don't do this. We need you. I need you. Her voice cracked with more than fear. It carried love. But Ryan smiled faintly, a rare, gentle smile. For the first time, I am not lonesome. And that means I finally have something worth giving everything for. He knelt before Lena, his hand on her shoulder. I will stay, little one. I will be your shield. Always. Lena's light flared. White against the dark, the swarm screamed, their voices shattering the night. But the light spread, burning through them. One by one, the creatures fell, their blue eyes fading, their bodies collapsing into ash. The valley shook, then grew still. When the light faded, Ryan stood beside Lena, his body broken, his breath ragged, but his eyes were steady, his choice made. The overseer's voice echoed one last time. The bond is complete. The guardian has chosen. The child is safe. Ryan turned to Mara, her tears glistening in the starlight. He reached for her hand, his voice low but firm. I may never leave this place, but I am not lost. I am with you, with her, and I am not lonesome anymore. Mara held his hand tight, pressing it to her heart, and Lena, still glowing faintly, whispered with a tired smile, I told you, you are not lonesome. The valley was quiet again, but it was no longer the silence of fear. It was the silence of peace, and in that silence, Ryan finally found what he had been searching for all along, a family, a purpose, and a home.